9 signs you're mentally exhausted. Um, just as the muscles, just as our muscles become fatigued from a hard workout or an endurance run, our brain can also reach a point of fatigue. Although what causes someone to hit this wall varies from person to person. Common causes include being in a lot of situations that require us to be responsible for others, situations that bring up a lot of emotions, and certainly navigating the journey of healing after betrayal that can easily fill our cup. That sounds like what many have faced over the past year or so as they've been trying their best to balance work, childcare, schooling, and keeping their families safe, in addition to everyone here in the community, which is trying their best to hold on and work through the complexities of trauma or betrayal. If you're mentally exhausted, try and keep going with the necessary self-care. You may find that your sleep and mood are significantly disturbed, that you're less patient with your family and those around you. It's not a stretch, if you haven't already, to maybe find yourself reaching for alcohol and junk food for comfort. And in the long run, this prolonged stress could put you at risk for depression and anxiety, or it could lead to burnout, which is why I was saying before in the beginning of the class, you're thinking mentally exhausted. Are you serious, Coach Jay? I got serious problems. I know I'm mentally exhausted, but what happens is if this isn't addressed, it could lead to burnout and some serious things, which could also lead to hospitalization. So keep in mind, prolonged mental stress causes a tremendous amount of damage in every area of your body and life. But knowing the signs of mental exhaustion, you can recognize when you need to recalibrate. Now, here are 9 things to look out for, 9 signs if you are mentally exhausted. Number 1, you're impatient. When we're mentally exhausted, smaller and smaller things become intolerable. And the reason being is because we have fewer emotional reserves. If you find yourself losing patience in moments that you normally wouldn't, like your 5-year-old taking forever to tie their shoes or your spouse being indecisive about what to order from DoorDash, this may be a red flag. 2, you're irritable. Mental exhaustion can cause you to be in a low-grade fight or flight mode all the time. This causes you to constantly be on the edge because your body feels the need to be vigilant of any possible dangers in your environment. This, unfortunately, is a definite for a long time after the discovery of betrayal. Number 3, concentration is a challenge. A lot of things may be on your mind right now and going on at once, making it hard to focus on one task at a time. But if you find that it's hard to speak clearly or concentrate well on anything, this could be a sign that your brain is snapped and some of its most basic functions are compromised. 4, your snack and adult beverage stash is depleted. Now, maybe you keep eating all the ice cream sandwiches you bought for the kids. Either way, you're self-medicating in an effort to comfort yourself. You're also giving into cravings for sugar, alcohol, and perhaps drugs because you're less able to make sound, rash decisions since your body is prioritizing what it needs now to survive. You have insomnia. You can actually be too tired to sleep. This can happen when you are mentally exhausted, yet you can't enter a state of relaxation. Additionally, since sleep is an active activity, the brain needs to work well in order to effectively sleep. But of course, your brain isn't functioning on all cylinders when it's exhausted. So insomnia or poor sleep can in turn perpetuate mental exhaustion, which will wreak havoc on your mind, your body, and your world, no doubt. Number 6, rest doesn't help, even if you do try to sleep. You know, if you don't have insomnia, sleep and other physical rest will not cause you to feel restored, simply put. In that case, you may need to increase your self-care, often making time to process your feelings with your journal, a supportive friend, a coach or a therapist, yoga, meditation, prayer, journaling, spending time in nature, taking a hot bath. All of these may be necessary to ease some of the tension. 7, small tasks seem overwhelming. When you're mentally exhausted, everything feels hard. Even mundane tasks like folding laundry. It feels like everything has tons of steps and is too much. Your brain is simply too drained to do anything, and it takes even the tiniest effort to complete the smallest of tasks. You know, I will say after my recent betrayal, I couldn't even sweep a quarter of my kitchen floor without having to go lie down. I mean, I thought it was age, to be honest with you. It never clicked that, oh my God, it's mental exhaustion from your body just being on overdrive 24/7. 8, you're numb. While some people cry or are irritated over nothing when mentally exhausted, others don't feel much of anything at all, good or bad. Life has made you so worn out that you can't even process emotions and you simply feel desensitized. You could basically be hearing a pretty sad story from somebody, a truthful, honest story from someone, and you're not even focused on what they're saying. And if you are, you're like, oh, yeah, you're going through the motions. You're just numb. 9, you argue more often. Keep in mind, I am referring to mental exhaustion primarily. Of course, after betrayal and broken trust, there will be tremendous arguments. However, for this class exclusively, I'm just talking about general overall mental exhaustion. You will argue more. When exhaustion continues to be high, it's not unreasonable that you go into it, that you get into it with a coworker over Zoom, or your partner, or your kids, or your neighbor, or your friends, what have you. But take notice if you're getting into significantly more fights or arguments with the people in your life. This is an indicator that your needs are not being met. The frustration that is coming out in your actions with others is telling you my needs aren't getting met, and or I'm mentally exhausted, I'm on mental overload. Your body is about to shut down. This is why I say, like, consider this a red flag for you to take a step back, pause, calm down. If there's little you can do to help change at this point, just know you're not crazy, you're not impossible to deal with, you're not going through your change unless you seriously literally are. It's just mental exhaustion. So if any or a few of these signs sound like you lately, you need some self-care. Think about what tends to make you feel grounded, calm, and safe, and that restores not only your physical, but also your emotional energy. You may or may not get emotional safety from someone outside, so you may need to give it to yourself, this emotional safety. You may or may not get it from the person who betrayed you. You know, if it was a spouse and you guys are reconciling, hopefully they can give it to you. But if not, somewhere else. And if you can't get it from somewhere else, then you got to give it to yourself. These may or may not be the same things you do when you are feeling tired, stressed, bored, or lonely. Go for a walk around your neighborhood, play with the dog, purposely, not just with your mind on something else. Purposely focus on the moment at hand with whatever you're doing. Meditate for 15 minutes, all the things you've heard 1,000 times before. Whatever the case, incorporate one or more of those into your daily life, even for a few minutes. In a previous class, I gave you a dozen or so things to do in terms of self-care. If this is something that you need to do for yourself, feel free to go back and watch that video. It's also important to emphasize the fundamentals, healthy eating, sleeping well, exercising, all the things, again, you've heard 1,000 times, but there's a reason you heard them 1,000 times, because they're absolute building blocks to combating mental exhaustion. If you can, truly rest and do nothing for a day, or longer if possible. If you can binge on your favorite Netflix show or books, if you can completely unplug from work, unplug your devices, and anything that causes you stress. I know it's a tough ask, but it's definitely helpful if you are able to. Now, okay, I just said shut your technology and your devices off, but I said binge on Netflix. If something is a no-brainer, if something actually gets your mind off of mental exhaustion and actually calms you, then by all means, even if it's video games, do it. But technology does have a tendency to hijack our already hijacked, overworked, hypervigilant minds. The other important thing is support. It can feel incredibly restorative to have someone provide care to you or to empathetically listen to you as you talk about what you're going through and what you're feeling. That someone, again, could be your partner, a family member, a friend, a trusted neighbor, and any of the wonderful coaches here at the PBT Institute. It basically, as long as you can talk openly with and that you can feel emotionally safe with them and that you trust them, the last thing you want to do is share trauma and then be re-traumatized because somebody didn't respect what you told them. If I leave you with anything after this class, it's this, and I'll just repeat what I've said before. You are simply mentally exhausted. You're not being a quote B. You're not going crazy. You're not, whatever else somebody told you or you're telling yourself. Your mind is simply telling you, please apply the brakes and give yourself a break.